there we are. Peter Bleksley's here. Very good morning to you, Peter.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
No, not at all. As ever, a pleasure. We've got plenty to talk about on the old law and order front, because not only have we got the Great Reset coming, which isn't a reset, don't mention it as a reset, please. Whatever you do, don't try and make out that there's anything wrong with the government. They're just sort of tweaking it slightly because they've worked out it's not going very well.
Yeah, well, because it's not a reset, and Keir Starmer's insisted on that, I'm glad to see we are going to be calling it a reset.
Just keep calling it that.
Yeah.
All through the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is exactly that.
Yes.
Because they've realised after a catastrophic 5 months when Starmer's opinion ratings have tanked, like you could not believe, they've decided that, guess what? They need a reset.
They need a reset, and why not indeed? But the trouble is the reset isn't going to really make any difference, is it? I mean, they're talking about every household will have a police officer to contact. Now, I've read, I was privileged enough to read it last night, the embargoed news release about what it was that they were planning to do. And apparently what they think is going to really be the big thing that will make the difference is that when somebody comes round your way and starts blasting their horn or selling drugs or beating other people up or breaking into your house or stealing your bike, there's a bloke whose name you've got who you can contact to report them to.
Yes, well, let's drill into some of the details of Keir Starmer's announcement, which, of course, was announced by Yvette Cooper a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, of course.
She announced 13,000 new police
Was that
officers.
a reset or just a sort of an update?
I think she just got it out earlier.
OK, right.
You know, because they're all scrabbling round to get some glory from somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
And, of course, it's in very short measure, unlike morning glory, which there's an abundance of.
Indeed,
in
absolutely
this studio.
right. Yes.
So 13,000 new police screams some of the headlines.
Yes.
It's actually very, very deceitful.
Is it?
Yes.
Right.
Because what it's actually going to be is possibly, if they can recruit them, and remember, policing is having a massive recruitment crisis at the moment.
People are leaving.
Yes, indeed.
Not joining.
No. So there's going to be, if they can get them, 3,000 new police officers for neighbourhood policing, right? So that's the new element.
Where are they getting these from?
Well, 3,000 will be new recruits if they can get them through the door and then get them trained and get them vetted and all of that, all of which they've failed miserably on in recent years. So if they manage to do that, all well and good, one might think. But the other 10,000 of the 13,000, well, some are going to be redeployed from existing jobs anyway. Right. So we might see officers taken away from frontline policing, response policing, and that, of course, would be a folly and foolish.
And I thought we didn't have any frontline police anyway.
Well, certainly not enough, and not enough suitably trained either. Then they're going to get 4,000 PCSOs, police community support officers. That they're going to newly recruit, apparently, if they can. So they're not police officers, they're PCSOs.
And people always ask me this question, you can answer it. Do they have the rights to arrest people and or all the rights of other police officers?
They have the same rights and powers of arrest as you and me.
Right.
Not police officers.
So not many, then?
They are not warranted police officers. They are police community support officers that have the power of civilians, essentially.
So they can't really come up to you and go, you're under arrest?
Well, they could do if you'd committed what is known as an arrestable offence. So an offence that can be tried at a Crown Court, a higher court. But we have those powers.
Complicated business, this.
It is, and I'm trying to.
They don't sound like they're worth the paper they're written on.
Well, we had one a few years ago in our local area, and his name was Ian.
Ian.
And I've got no shame in saying he was a thoroughly nice fella.
Yes.
Not a cop, a PCSO. And whenever I saw Ian on his push bike, and I was at home, I'd flag him down and he'd have a smile on his face because he knew there was a cup of tea and a biscuit awaiting for him in my kitchen. Yes. Of course, had to bring his bike into our hallway
so didn't get nicked.
because he wouldn't want to get nicked. And I'd put the kettle on and get the biscuits out. And he actually was a really good fella. And what he did, he knew my background, he knew I was ex-police, he knew my wife, she was still serving at the time. So he would consequently give us all the crime and policing gossip of our neighbourhood. And that was right. And that was correct. What crimes had happened where, you know, how it had happened, the method of the burglary or the car
looking
theft.
for people and all that.
And all that, because he knew that in all likelihood I'd go down the pub and tell my mates what to be aware of. What to be concerned about.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad thing.
Very good. The essence of community policing. Spread that information. And off he'd toddle half hour later happy, content. I knew what all the policing and crime gossip of our manor was, and I would spread that as far and wide as I possibly could.
Yes.
Thoroughly decent fella. But of course, we haven't seen him for years because they've been taken away. And they're no
so
longer
is Ian no longer a PCSO then?
I have no idea what Ian's doing. I haven't seen him for a very
Well, Ian, if you're listening, give us a call, tell us where you are now. But there we are.
Yeah. And what I should say is another 3,000 or so of this 13,000 crime fighters are going to be special constables. They're volunteers.
Yes.
They do about 4 hours of volunteering a week.
Yes. So and they volunteer in not necessarily a particularly active area.
Well, some of them do, actually. Some of them, you know, are actually very capable and very committed. But it's their hobby, and they do it for 4 hours a week. So they're not really going to make a huge transformative difference.
No.
So there you go. That's the detail behind the deceptive headline.
Yes. According to this, a named contactable police officer on the streets will be made possible for every single neighbourhood in Britain. According to the Prime Minister, he's going to fundamentally reform how the government delivers.
Well, as you know, as you know, Mike, I say, let's see where we are this time next year.
Yes.
Because the headlines are great, the announcements are great, but you have to actually deliver. And with the lawless streets that we've got in Britain today, I don't think that this commitment and these additional officers are suddenly going to enable us all to live in some crime-free nirvana where we can leave our front doors open when we pop down a shop. Because if we do, we won't have our telly when we get back.
No, can I just read you what the government actually thinks is going on in the world as opposed to what's actually going on in the world? This is their statement from yesterday evening, which is now being made public later on today. The government has already made significant progress since July. I'd say they haven't. Fixing the foundations of the country. Sorry, kicking off the first steps to deliver real change. I'm not even going to bother doing it in Starmer's accent, right? Here's what he thinks has happened. Prioritising economic stability through the autumn budget and prioritising the Budget Responsibility Act as the first bill passed by the government. I mean, the government has caused the economy to crash and burn into the drains of Britain.
And so many employers to turn around and say, well, as a result of the national insurance hike, we won't be taking on new staff. We might have to lay off some existing staff.
In fact, we might even shut down.
And any staff that were remaining and were hoping for a pay rise, you'll, I'm afraid, unfortunately, have to think again. Well done, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves.
That's only the first one, right? Second one, providing the largest NHS funding settlement since 2010, outside of COVID, so not actually the largest, to deliver an additional 40,000 extra elective appointments per week, and we're reforming the way the NHS works to do so. Because, I mean, I have to say, people are still finding it very difficult to get a doctor's appointment. It hasn't changed since July, has it?
Not that I'm aware of. Fortunately, I haven't needed a doctor's appointment, but I've seen and spoken to many people who are continually moaning and groaning and thinking, if only they'd arrived at Dover in a rubber boat, then they would have been put up in a hotel, possibly a 16th century
and given access
mansion,
to private medicine,
and got a doctor's appointment and dental treatment at their behest.
Yes. Should we try number 3 to see how that one's going? Setting up Great British Energy in Aberdeen with a £125 million to start investing in clean energy projects. We have overturned the ban on onshore wind, approved more nationally significant solar than was delivered under the past 14 years, and seen a record-breaking round of renewable projects delivered.
May I point
renewable
out,
projects?
Yes. Could I point out that this is an initiative that's going to be headed up by none other than Ed Miliband?
Yes.
Shall we look at his track record?
Ed Miliband, as he's become known on our show. His record of success is woeful. In fact, let's go for number 4, because maybe there's something here for us. Establishing a new border security command to smash the gangs with £150 million in their first year. We have already returned 9,400 people with no right to be here. Can I just point out that 9,400 people is approximately 1% of the number of people that migrated to this country in the last year alone?
Yes, I think it was 906.
It was.
Wasn't it? The net amount of people.
So 1% of people
into this country
have been returned. So we've got 99% of people who came still here.
Yes, yes.
What a great ratio, is it?
What a glittering
if
track
you
record.
went to see QPR playing Sunderland and you came back having lost 99-1, I don't think you'd call it a success, would you?
No, and I'd have left long before half-time.
All right, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, though, because we don't want to be unfair to the new Labour government. Number 5, supporting the recruitment of 6,500 new teachers in England through increasing the core schools budget of £2.3 billion. Now, I'm going to go because they're not increasing the budget by 2.3 billion. They're just saying they're increasing it by a small amount. This, of course, is coming from the VAT they're imposing on private schools, many of which private schools are now actually not paying it because they're claiming back money that they could have claimed from years before on VAT capital projects.
And many pupils, of course, whose parents will no longer be able to afford to send them to private schools, so they therefore will become a drain on the state system.
Yes, and 6,500 new teachers, guess what? Doesn't give you one new teacher per school in Britain, I'm afraid. Yes. Finally, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure if these are missions or milestones or pledges, but the final one is cracking down on antisocial behaviour, announcing new respect orders and providing funding to support the recruitment of an additional, and here's where you come in, 13,000 officers, PCSOs and special constables in neighbourhood areas.
I refer you to my previous answers, but let's remember, when we're talking about orders for antisocial behaviour, let's remember, what government was it that brought in antisocial behaviour orders?
The
Labour government, that brought in ASBOs that were going to deal with antisocial behaviour.
Right.
But here we are, all these years later, and we still have antisocial behaviour.
And if anything, the antisocial behaviour's got worse, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I would say. I mean, I saw yesterday the usual thing: a load of kids on bikes, wheelies going down Jamaica Road. I was going home at about 4:30 in the afternoon. Very menacing looking, going in and out of the cars. Drivers not sure what to do. Nobody to be seen telling them to stop doing it because people are too frightened. They're about 14, 15-year-old, these kids. You don't know whether they've got knives. You don't know whether they've got intent to do harm to people, and they just basically operate as if they own the streets.
A couple of months ago, I was out on the front line of policing with officers from Bedfordshire. And we saw these people who were operating on yet another level up because they were on these quad-type bikes, but they're the two-wheel motocross things, right? So, no registration plates, therefore no insurance, possibly no suitable licence to ride them. They're balaclavaed up, so you can't see their faces, no helmets, and they are taunting the police because they know the police probably won't pursue them because their senior officers will say, no, you might cause harm or injury to one of them if you happen to ram them off their motorbike. And they terrorise, of course, the local population. They're dangerous. And the police are powerless to do very much about it whatsoever. And I don't suppose a respect order, that is if they could catch them, will be of great use.
I know, absolutely ridiculous. Got this from Liz. It says Norfolk Police got rid of PCSOs years ago in order to fund, wait for it, more police.
Yes. Yes.
Well, oh dear.